Good morning, YouTube. Peace and power to everyone. I am going to get back into the view of the Hebrews. Thank you to everyone who watched the Comanche and the soup status info video. Peace and power to everyone that watched and commented. And you know what? Since I have Twitter up, let me go ahead and share. As I stated, I hope that everyone is doing well. I'm about to get into this info, Y'all know how I do. Once I'm in, I'm in. Thank you, Brother Uno. He's saying that I need to download it first. I didn't want to download it because I have an actual copy of the book. But those of you who do want to read the book and look into it, I put the link on there. We're gonna get back. I want y'all to go over to Instagram and follow me, Styles by Nina LLC on the gram. I done got lazy with my Instagram, as I do. I mean, sometimes it's just too much sharing and it takes up a lot of time. Go over to Twitter. I am Urban Intellectual at Styles by Nina. Some of this stuff I just should not check on screen, but I'll go for it. Okay. The Anunnaki UK liked Brother Teach Me to Be Priestly, his video. The good thing about social media is that it reaches wide, brothers, I'm going down a whole list and I'm sharing your information on my Twitter. I don't have a bunch of followers, but I do have followers. The last brother's video I was sharing was Brother Uno. I'm going to go back up and start on the education. I think I shared Lexis, and then I shared Teach Me to Be Priestly, and then I shared Brother Uno. So the education center is next, and then MW Smith. I'm going to share some more of your stuff. Y'all give me one moment. I'm sorry, y'all. Give me a moment. Okay, y'all. It is 9:35 a.m. As I stated, I'm working, and it seems like every time I'm about to get into the information, boom, the phone is ringing. So, I'm just gonna get back into it. We're on page 125. This is chapter 3, number 12. Other Indian rites and various other considerations go to evince the fact that this people are the 10 tribes of Israel. Further details are given and might be enlarged upon as religious separations of Indian females, almost exactly answering to the law in ancient Israel. They're beginning the year as did Israel with the new moon after the vernal equinox. There's special attention paid to the new moons as was paid in Israel. Their green corn moon, the most lovely of all, even as Israel had their beloved month Abib, which signifies an ear of green corn, their jubilee declared to have been observed by some of the natives. Melvinda and Acosta both affirm that the natives keep a jubilee according to the usage in Israel. The testimony of Edwards in his West Indies, that the striking uniformity of the prejudices and customs of the Caribbean Indians to practice of the Jews had not escaped the notice of historians as Gumela de Turtre and others, and the various predictions of the final restoration of Israel, bringing them from the ends of the earth, from the west, and as one translates it, from the going down of the sun. These things open fruitful sources of evidence. But I have more than equaled my design limits. One moment. But I more than equaled my design limits. It is again asked, is it possible to find another people on earth exhibiting an equal degree of evidence of there being the 10 tribes of Israel? Can another people on earth be found exhibiting 1/6 part of the evidence adduced in favor of the American natives? We expect no new revelation nor miracles wrought to inform who are the 10 tribes of Israel. Here is just such evidence as we should rationally look for, but 6 times as much of it as we should. Page 126, chapter 3. Dare to have expected after a lapse of 2,500 years with a people without letters, our aborigines are essentially distinguished from all other pagans on earth in the uniform belief of most of them of one God and their freedom from false gods, as well as in many other striking things which appear in their history. How prone have been mankind in all ages to idolatry. Hundreds of thousands of false gods of every foolish description have existed in the bewildered imaginations of men destitute of revelation. But the knowledge of the true God was renounced. As they did not like to retain God in their knowledge, God gave them up to almost every description of idolatry. How early did the world, in several centuries after the flood, go off in gross idolatry, even under the instructions of the patriarchs, and so soon after the terrible admonitions of the flood, the natives of one of the greatest islands of the Eastern Ocean are so depraved that it has been known that they had the least idea of any supreme being. How prone were they had the least idea of how prone were the Jews and Israel in ancient times, under all their rich advantages, to unite in the idolatries of their heathen neighbors. And we remember when we were reading the other one, I think the other book was the tribes of Israel. Once they escaped, they got to a new place and they started in the idolatry. And it was like 4 people that escaped the whole people, and God did away with that town as well. Okay. Now, but 70 years captivity of the Jews in Babylon cured them utterly of idolatry. From that day to this, while they have been dispersed and been infidels relative to Jesus Christ, they have been firm believers in the Old Testament and in the one God of Abraham. It is analogous with this to expect that the 10 tribes, whatever they are, would be cured, as well as the Jews, of their gross idolatry, and would be kept during their long outcast state in a situation somewhat resembling that of the Jews in their speculation. Page 127, chapter 3. Concerning God, such has been the case with the natives. Hold on, y'all. All right, y'all, I'm back. Such has been the case with the natives of this continent, at least to as great a degree as could be without a Bible or letters, and such has been the case with no other people on earth. Nothing but the very special power and mercy of God could have kept these natives in this traditional habit of acknowledging the one and only living God, living in true God as they have done, while they have been dead to the life of religion as a valley of dry bones. Yet they have strangely been kept from acknowledging any other God but Haya, the great spirit who made them and all things. Okay. The great spirit who made them and all things. Yeah, I'm sorry it's chopped up, but I am working. And light in these last 2 days of wonder, when the time for the restoration of Israel and Judah is drawing near, has been breaking out and accumulating on this subject to exhibit the origin of the American natives. It is ascertained in the Star in the West that Spaniards, Portuguese, French, English, Jews, and Christian men of learning and the illiterate and seafaring men all have united in the statements of fact which go to indicate that these Indians are the descendants of Israel. Mr. Mackenzie has traveled from the Atlantic very far to the northwest, and some of his statements of facts go to the same point. Various of the European visitants, that's what they were, to this continent early after it was known to the civilized world, it was already known to everybody else, expressed their surprise on finding among the natives things which bore such a resemblance to the history of ancient Israel. What account can be given of all this, but that here are the very 10 tribes. These tribes must be somewhere on earth. Where are they? How can they be known? Whence came our Native Americans? What other account can be given of their traditions, their language, Hebrew words, and phrases? Page 128, chapter 3. The radical language of their tribes and the broken fragments of their ancient economy of Israel running through so many of them. It would be far wilder and more difficult to account for these things on any other principle than to say we have evidence that is satisfactory of having found at last the very valley of the dry bones of the house of Israel. The facts stated of them must be on every other principle appear most unaccountable, not to say miraculous. Before any degree of confidence is admitted against the evidences adduced, as though other and more conclusive evidence must point out at last the 10 tribes, let it be recollected that the divine mode of affording evidence is not always such as human wisdom would dictate. The Jews had their strong objections against the evidences of the divinity, the resurrection, and ascension of Christ. They did not believe in that. Let's read that again. And we just going, y'all know these are the people that call themselves Jews but are not. But we're talking about the original Jews. They had their strong objections against the evidences of the divinity, the resurrection, and the ascension of Christ. These were not such as they would have chosen. In the midst of such evidences as God saw fit to afford, the Jews required more. What sign showest thou? How long dost thou make us doubt? Let him descend from the cross that we may see and believe. Nahum had formed his expectations how his cure would be affected by the prophet of Israel. He would come out and lay his hand on the sore and call upon God and heal him. And for the mortifying reverse of this, he turned to go away in a rage. Many things may be very probably fancied concerning the kinds of degrees of evidence which must at last exhibit the 10 tribes to the world, but providence may adopt a different method. The methods divinely adopted in every point have usually been such as sustain the pride of all human glory. The Afghans in Persia, page 129, chapter 3, may prove to be sorry y'all, I gotta connect my phone back. I'm being a rebel for y'all. May prove to be a small part of the 10 tribes, but it is doubted whether their evidence is by any means so full as that of the American natives. The latter have, to say the least, very considerable of just such kind of evidence as it would naturally be supposed. Hold on. Okay. The latter we have to say the least, very considerable of just such kind of evidence as it would be naturally supposed must bring to light the 10 tribes after remaining for millenarians in a savage state, may the subject be duly examined and a correct decision in due time be formed. Okay, so we ended chapter 3 on page 130, 129 actually. 130 is blank. We're going to go into chapter 4 in the next reading, which starts on page 131. Peace and power to everyone, and I'm out.